Hello everybody and welcome back to Suzerain. So in the last episode we managed to go ahead and try and actually recover some of our economy. So the economy is actually starting to come back up. We have a nice little surplus in the budget. Our personal wealth is doing good. All things seem to be turning out okay. However, we did run into Tarquin Soul, and that's going to be a bit of a problem going on down the road. Also, we're going to be opposing the Supreme Court, which is also going to be a huge issue as well. So yeah, we have plenty of troubles that's going to be heading our way, but hopefully we can get around them. Also, we're going to be dealing with Lesbia pretty soon. We're going to actually try and have a deal with them. We can't do anything with Vauxland, unfortunately, but hey, I mean, 3 out of 4 isn't bad, so I'll definitely take that. All right, so we now get to see the Supreme Court's decision. I was eagerly waiting for the decision of the Supreme Court regarding the Emergency Act. I stood up from my chair and looked out the window in my office. Peters was with me too. He was slouching on the couch at the right side of the office and staring at the ceiling. Good day to you, Mr. President. Am I interrupting anything? It's okay, Livia. What happened? Of course it was bad. The Chief Justice has sent you this. She showed me the wrapped object. Thank you, Livia. You can leave it on my table. Yes, sir. She walked up and gave it to me. I immediately started to remove the wrapping to reveal a framed photograph. It was an old black and white photograph of Tarquin Soul posing on a destroyed tank at the Holsword Square. The building behind him had thousands of bullet holes on it. To the side, a clearly readable slogan, "Victory is close," written on its walls. The date, the 22nd of May, 1929, was written on the corner with a black marker. I turned to Livia. Okay. Thanks, Livia. You may go now. Livia turned to leave. Hi, Livia. Noticing Peter on the couch, Livia reddened slightly. She gave a small wave with Peter, which Peter returned. Oh God, what's going on between you two? Is that a thing, Peter? Is that a thing? I kind of wanted that first, but is that a thing, Peter? Mr. Vice President, I'll be leaving now. As soon as she left the room, Peter came right next to me and took a look at the photograph. Oh, a nice present. Damn, Orso. Victory will be close, huh? Orso's getting ahead of himself. The emergency decree was tough on all of my team. We were constantly battling with opposition against our security measures. Cooperating with the old guard had put me in a very fragile spot, which could backfire at me at any moment. Cooperating with the old guard, even for a short time, has put me in a very fragile spot, which felt like it could backfire at any moment. Do you trust Orso Hawker? Hell no. So, you expect an actual trial against you. I have to be prepared for the worst. I can't believe this. You did what they asked. It's absurd that they did not protest when you declared the emergency, and now they're reviewing a past case. We can't face a negative outcome from the Supreme Court. I know, Peter, I know. Peter looked at me and then continued to stare at the ceiling. How about the Blutus issue? The emergency did not really help with the situation in Bergia. It has become even more volatile. The Ashraf anniversary will happen later this year. Who knows how that will unfold? I'm afraid we also contributed to the radicalization of the Melanyevis on our soul. We'll get through it. I wish I could be as hopeful as you, but I really need something good to happen. Suddenly we heard a knock on the door, and immediately afterwards Lucien rushed in, out of breath. The court has made its decision, sir. They declared the emergency decree illegal and agreed with every complaint of Mr. Richter regarding your actions being unconstitutional. What? Alright, so what are we going to do now? This decree has done a lot of damage, but we can still figure something out to increase the support behind you. We have to make sure the court does not push on investigating Mr. Richter's claim. This can lead to further chaos and theoretically to your impeachment. The phone rang. I ignored the phone and let it ring until it came to a stop. I'm pretty sure it's Orso. Lucien looked at me. Sir, We have to make sure the court has no plans to make this case against you. I'll start reaching out to the justices and find out about their stance and if they're willing to be bribed. In the meantime, let's stay focused on our current task. No, Orso will pay. I'll involve Mr. Gracer. Sir, what do you have in mind? He had a worried face. It's fine, Lucien. I just need to talk to Carl. As you wish, sir. Let's finish the meeting here. I'll make a short phone call. They left the room. Call Carl Gracer. Okay, it's time for us to start getting to some desperate measures here. I took the phone and called Carl Gracer. After a few seconds of ringing, he picked it up. This is Carl Gracer speaking. Hello, Carl. Mr. President. I'm at your command, sir. How can I help you? Can we get rid of Orso Hawker? You want him completely gone? His time has come. I see. Are you giving me full approval on this, sir? Yes, make sure it's done. As you wish, sir. I'll give the order. I hung up the phone. So yeah, we have to resort to some unsavory methods. Now, the last time I actually did do this, and it didn't turn out well. But we'll see if things are different this time around. Supreme Court has ruled that the emergency was unlawful, so now we have to deal with that. And there is a conspiracy against Rain, so Soylent today is still helping me out. I need that. Really do need that influence right now. Alright. The PFJP congratulates the Supreme Court. Such a naive bastard Friends Richter is. But then again, I guess I was naive too. Cabinet meeting on the results of the vote. Lucien stood upright, holding a large folder of files under his arm. He bowed in acknowledgement. He looked exhausted. The cabinet has gathered in the White Room, sir. The Vice President will be opening the session soon. We can go in whenever you're ready. I'm ready. Let's go. Of course, sir. Lucien held the door for me and we both left the office for the White Room. When we entered the room, Peter was speaking to the cabinet members who were already seated around the table. As soon as they noticed me, they all stood up. Good day, everybody. Please have a seat. Peter turned towards me. Everybody except him took their seats. He stood right next to my chair in the middle. And here's our president. He held out my chair for me to sit down and smiled. Please. I sat down. Let Peter talk. Peter walked to his seat and spoke, still standing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to discuss our current status and plan the remaining of our term. I know that some of you have had your concerns about our style of governance so far. There will be a time to speak up about these in the meeting today. But I must also thank you all for your hard work so far. We're very lucky to have a team like this. All of you have been invaluable to this administration. Nia and Sierra grimaced at his remarks. Having said that, now we have reached the critical point of our term. We are nearing the end. As we all know, the state of emergency that was declared against the chaos in the beginning of our term is no longer in place. Mr. President was brave enough to act swiftly and revoked his decree when the situation was stabilized. However, the same justices who agreed to the decree are now trying to use it against him. Do not make a mistake. This is a clear plot that affects all of us. An attack against President Rain is an attack against our whole administration. He paused and looked around the room. We are all responsible for the actions of this administration. Today, we need to be united more than ever. We will do whatever it takes to come out of this stronger and serve our country better. If need be, we'll make major changes in our party structure. Lilius raised an eyebrow and stared at Peter with crossed arms. Nia raised her hand. Mr. Vice President, I warned you about the path you took, but you did not listen. Mr. Hawker is very adamant about the impeachment, and Mr. President has given him a good reason. Everyone in the room was looking at Nia. Sierra, who sat next to her, put her hand on Nia's shoulder and slightly pulled her back. The room fell silent for a few seconds. Peter broke the silence with a cough. And how did you help us inside the court, Miss Morgana? Please let me finish before we start arguing about the past. Miss Morgana, as a member of the Supreme Court yourself, you're supposed to have this case dismissed. I can't. Yes, I'm doing my best, of course. You have our complete trust, Miss Morgana. Peter smiled at her. So, where were we? Maybe we should take a look at our current situation first. So, let's start the meeting with a brief look at some reports. He fumbled with the stack of papers in front of him. With the latest developments, we have seen an enormous decrease in our popularity. The public opinion about our party is at an all-time low. He took out a piece of paper from the stack and inspected it. A major concern of the people is the state of our economy. We are still plagued by the recession. This will have dire consequences for our administration. We mustn't lose hope and give it our best. Sortland needs us more than ever. Peter turned to me. I'll give the word to the president now. He sat down. Mr. Vice President, thank you for the opening. Everyone's eyes were focused on me. First, I want to talk about our new focus and some of my plans forward. The state of our economy is very concerning. It must be our focus to achieve quick economic development. Simon nodded in agreement. Sortland needs to become an economic powerhouse. Almost everybody seemed to be in agreement with me. If there are no other comments, I want to talk about another plan. We must rally the people against the Supreme Court. That would put pressure on their investigation. Lucien put on his glasses to inspect the documents in front of him. Yes, sir, I agree. I'll start making the necessary arrangements. He wrote on the document and put down his pen after. If there are no comments, let's move on with the meeting. Next, I want to hear brief reports from each ministry. Peter gestured at Simon and he immediately stood up. Mr. President, dear colleagues, Mr. Vice President was pretty on point with his summary of the current economic status. The recession is still our number one concern. This year we have seen a 1.8% decrease in our GDP. On the other hand, unemployment has greatly declined. We've managed to cut it from 16% to 10%. This will likely have positive effects in the near future. He paused for a moment. Okay, I'll stay silent. Well, I don't want to get into too much detail right now, but I have to say that sadly, our first infrastructure project has not resulted in much growth yet. But apart from all that, I'll finish with an update on our latest project. The manager reported that everything is going well and very fast with the Conrad Industrial Zone. I'll keep it brief for the sake of the whole meeting and end my report on that note. Thank you, Mr. Hole. Gus stood up as soon as Simon sat down. He asked for a private audience, which the cabinet respected. It was just two of us in the room. I will also keep it very brief, Mr. President. The L1 Railway has already proven to be a success. We've managed to bring food prices down in Greater Holsord and the Gelston regions. Our agricultural output has increased and we are already seeing investment coming into rural areas. The trade deal with Wayland increasing our agriculture exports from the Bergia region. Our farmers are still suffering. Our ministry did its best by giving out subsidies to local farmers, but our agricultural production remains the same. We've only recorded some development in the Anglin region, but our farmers in Gelsland and Bergia are still suffering. Additionally, I bring good news regarding our investment. The vineyard has begun producing some wine. I've also arranged several wine tasters to sample and give ideas on how to improve the quality. In a few years, the vineyard may even challenge the regional samples. I would need some further attention to reach these goals, however. That will be all from me. Thank you, Mr. Manger. Gus invited the cabinet back in and sat down. Some were obviously opposed to such behavior. Next up was Pascal. Mr. President, the same problems we previously discussed are still persisting, but our ministry is not facing any immediate issues at this moment. We are currently investigating some reports of a small polio outbreak around a village called Haymere. I believe we can get into more details in our policy meeting. Thank you, Mr. Bennywall. Isoff stepped up. The Ministry of Defense has a very important report regarding our situation with Runeberg. The investigation showed that Runeberg was, in fact, weaponizing rebels against our state. We've learned that they have been aiding the Bluish rebels in Wayland, too. Our military must stand ready for any possible attack coming from Runeberg. We've gathered intelligence regarding their military research and production. They are building a massive army. We urgently need to increase our military production. We cannot let them threaten us like this. Okay. We should bring our military forces closer with Agnolia. Of course, sir. We already started cooperating, but I must highlight that Agnolia cannot stand against Runeberg. We can only trust ourselves. Make the necessary arrangements, Mr. Lankia. We'll have to use whatever we have to its limit. Of course, sir. David stood up. Mr. President, Perla has agreed to begin deal negotiations. We will be moving on with that very soon. Our relations with Agnolia have greatly improved. Our ministries have scheduled many joint projects together. Cooperation between Wayland and Swordland has increased to new levels. However, we are seeing its negative impact with Lesbia. The region is very unstable. With the incident at Runeberg, Wayland, and Helgeland, we must be very cautious. We can talk in more detail at our foreign policy meeting. Thank you, Mr. Whiskey. Sierra was next. Our ministry is working day and night to improve our education system and increase its accessibility, but the lack of funding has made it very difficult. The situation remains the same as before. Her eyes were filled with fury. Lilia suddenly stood up. Mr. President, there's an important report from our intelligence officers. We've disrupted the radio signals of several active Bluish Freedom Front militants in Bergia. There seems to be some sort of preparation going on. Our police is also under pressure from people beginning to protest again. We might need to implement some new measures soon. We will provide you with a more detailed report at a later date. One last thing. I would like to transfer the Gendarmerie under the Ministry of Interior to improve the internal security efforts. If you need more help, I can surely arrange a transfer. Wouldn't have brought it up if it was not necessary. The Ministry of Defense shouldn't be meddling with internal security affairs through the Gendarmerie. We had several incidents where they were too violent too quickly, and it stems from military officers giving reckless orders at times. Well, if the security situation gets more problematic, then it might be necessary. It will eventually cause a problem between our forces. There is already miscommunications going on. Will you transfer the Gendarmerie to the Interior in the future? I will support you in the Gendarmerie authority transfer. Now it's your turn. Excellent. Lilia smiled faintly. Thank you for your reports. I believe that's everything. Everybody packed up and left the room. I went back to my office. Carl Gracer was waiting for me by the door. Mr. President, can I have a moment of your time? I have something to discuss. Of course. Let's go inside the office. We entered my office. I went up to my desk and sat down on my chair. Please have a seat, Carl. Thank you, sir, but I'm fine. I will not take long. The Secret State Police has compiled a report regarding the active investigations. We've been watching the Old Guard closely, just as you asked, and found a very complex web of connections. There are missing links in our investigation, but the Old Guard seems to be involved in huge cases of corruption and lobbying. Most of the connections link Chief Justice Hawker. Despite none of the members of the Assembly having direct ties with him, there seems to be a complex web of connections that is proving very difficult to track. We also have another suspicion. Our findings led us to believe that there is an ongoing cooperation between the Young Swords organization and the Old Guard. While this is huge, it is very difficult to create a solid case at the moment, and the justices of the court has immunity before the law. I don't see how we can take them down legally. If we decide to make a case, we can arrest most of their connections in the Assembly. However, there's probably more to this than we had imagined. If the laws are not on our side, we'll find another way. That's why I have you. course, sir. I thought I was clear before. Why isn't Orso gone? It will happen soon, sir. It was difficult to organize the force with the old guards having ears everywhere. I'll give you an update soon. I will also send you the detailed report of our previous findings. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Carl. He bowed his head and left the office. The last 2.5 years escaped us so fast. Okay, so we're in a bit of a pickle now. So we're facing impeachment, and now we're going to have to deal with some of the consequences of our actions. We have more protests in Suzerain. It's in perpetual protest mode now. We have anti-government protests going on in Gelsord. And what else do we have? We have the Whistleblower agent report. The Agent Hailstone has revealed intelligence about a secret nuclear weapons program developed in Runeberg. Our intelligence has verified the details relayed about a heavy water facility in the north of the kingdom and a ballistic missile test site. The agent will be provided security under the protection program and will be given resources to transfer further intelligence to our units. Interesting. So they might have nuclear weapons, those little bastards. Interesting. Okay, we have gang violence diminishing up in Astord. Always nice. And let's see. We have to address the nation in a speech. Office of the President of Swordland, Maroon Palace. Lucian and I walked into my office in the Maroon Palace to make my address to the nation. It was unusually crowded today. Cameras, lights, and microphones were set in place, and the crew was standing by, ready to start filming. Are you ready, sir? Yes, let's do it. Good, I think the crew is ready. As soon as you take your seat, we can go live. I took my seat and rearranged my notes on the desk as a crew member powdered my face with a cotton puff. After everybody was ready, the director gave the sign to start filming. I looked directly into the camera. My fellow citizens. I took office with a plan to lead Swordland out of recession and into greatness. But before I could change Swordland, Swordland itself changed drastically. My inauguration was marked by a brutal assassination. Even worse than the bloodshed were my opponent's attempts to use it to tear me down. I was attacked by the opposition on one side and the Supreme Court on the other. I couldn't win. This infighting is a needless distraction from the real threats still raging within our borders. People of Swordland, Anton Rain will not let himself be so easily cowed. I will not let a few fringe groups keep me from doing what I was elected to do. I will not let foreign conflicts get in the way of building this great nation. All this while bringing Swordland back from the depths of recession. I took a deep breath. Lucian shooed a fly away from my forehead. I have not forgotten the promise I made when you elected me. I swore to improve Swordland's military, and even with all that's been going on, I succeeded. I'd like to thank you for standing by me, your president, both in good times and bad. That seems a little, yeah, sure. Amorgna Westcor, Vecturnsis Da. The director gave the cut signal. and the cameraman stopped filming. My speech was finished. Okay, pretty decent speech. Let's see what we got here. Sorlin today. President to restore Sorlin to glory. Always embellishing things a little bit. And we have protests in front of the Supreme Court. They're helping me out with that as well, too. Still a fruitful relationship. Just the way I like it. Let's continue. Revelations. That doesn't sound good. Surely it won't be too bad. Surely? Probably? Alright, let's see where things stand. Let's see. Gendarmerie police issue. Oh great, we have a failed raid in Resort because of miscommunication between the two. Let's see what we got up here. Queen demands reparation for a 15-day war. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is analyzing the situation and coming up with a plan of action. And you can go screw yourself, as usual. Geopolitical. Alright. She wants reparations for a 15-day war and hundreds killed in Helgeland. According to reports, the riots in Helgeland has already resulted in the arrest of thousands. Good lord. Okay, they got some problems of their own. It's funny how they're having all those problems, even though Agnolia was all like, oh yeah, you have all these problems going on in your country. I don't know if we can do trade with you. Sounds like you gotta deal with your own stuff. Departure of the president's son from home. Okay, so my son is about to go to university. It was a cloudy, rainy day in Holsord. The gloomy weather echoed my own feelings. The court had ruled against me. My presidency might be on the line. I couldn't spend the day moping. However, Frank was finally about to leave home. My son piled the last of his bags next to the door. Sergey and the assistant driver were waiting outside next to the car. Did you pack everything? Don't forget to give me a call immediately after you arrive. I will. I think I'm all packed. If you ever need money, don't refrain from telling us. You know that we have been doing very good recently. Oh, I got an achievement. Frugal. I know. Thanks, Mom. Monica helped him put his backpack on while Sergey started carrying the luggage to the car. I made you a sack lunch. I'll get it from the kitchen. She dashed from down the hall. Frank and I turned to face each other in the doorway. So, I guess this is it. I know studying abroad wasn't your first choice, but I hope you can live with it. I will, don't worry. Frank shifted his weight nervously. I haven't forgotten what you told me about your university years. I hope going to a new country gives me a chance to prove myself the same way you did. Don't model your life on mine. You're your own man now, Frank. Frank smiled. All right, Dad. At that moment, Dana rushed to the door. Frank! I'm gonna miss you. I'll miss you too. Don't forget you've got to give Mom and Dad an extra hard time for both of us now. Dana nodded. Okay. Frank picked up his sister and gave her a big hug. Monica appeared in the doorway, holding a paper bag. I cut the crust off your sandwich just the way you used to like. I'm not a kid anymore, Mom. Can't a mother pretend? Oh, Frank. She embraced him with tears in her eyes. Frank looked as if he was about to cry as well. I caught her glaring at me over his shoulder. I hoped someday she would understand why I decided to send him away. She was mad. She was okay with it, kind of. Now she's mad at me. Jesus. Sergey approached. Sir, Frank needs to catch the next flight to Arcadia, which leaves from Holsord International in 2 hours. We will have to leave now to make it. Time to go, Frank. Frank turned around and took one last look at me. Make me proud. Frank nodded before heading to the car. It's difficult to see them grow and leave, isn't it? It's time for him to find himself in the world. He will. We all did, after all. Being exposed to a different culture, different beliefs, it changes a man. I think it would be a liberating experience for him. It's never easy for boys to live in the shadow of their fathers. And it must be even harder when one's father is Anton Rain. A great man like you casts a very long shadow. Not everyone thinks that. Excuse my language, Mr. President, but to hell with him. You are my president, now and forever. He looked at his watch. Time to go. Frank waved his hand as he entered the car. The engine started and they were on their way. Monica stood next to me as they drove away. Her eyes were teary. There he goes. It already feels different. She put her head on my shoulder. I stroked her hair supportively. She turned to me, kissed me on my cheek, and put her head on my shoulder again. With the recent court loss, I hope we will be all right. We watched for a few more minutes, even after the car was no longer in sight. All right, so my son has gone off to college. Voslin harasses sorted ships. Oh, great. Now they're trying to pick a fight. Always wonderful. Good thing I didn't deal with that port, because that would have been a big issue, probably with my trade. Okay, let's see what the radical said. President sends dimwit son to Arcasia. Nice. Always classy. President's son to receive proper education. And the Economist is always happy about that type of stuff. And Vogslandian ships harassing the entire Markian Sea. So that's going to be a problem. Alright, let's see what else we got here. Scholarship program proposal. A proposal for a large scholarship program is on the table. A large volume scholarship program is proposed by Lucien to improve the condition for the less fortunate students. The RAIN scholarship will cover most, if not all, expenses for an estimated 50,000 students at or below the poverty line. I'll actually do that since we have some money in our budget. Alright, discussion on the changes to the law. Office of the President of Sorlin, Maroon Palace. Lucien and I sat in my office waiting for Peter. I was at my desk and he was on the sofa, legs crossed. Suddenly, the phone rang. It was Carl. Sir, I have some unfortunate news. Our attempt on the Chief Justice's life has failed. His dog drank the poison we had prepared for him. Hawker has increased his security detail, and it looks like future attempts will be futile. Keep trying. I will. I have to make sure our tracks are covered. I'll keep you updated, Mr. President. The line dropped. I hung up and turned back to Lucien. Sir, I have some news for you. Mr. Hull and I have been working on several possible plans to boost the economy, as is our focus. He is currently compiling a very detailed report with suggested projects. I'll make sure you have a chance to see it soon. Before we move on, I must also say that the Supreme Court is furious with what we have done. Our public campaign against them is working. People were already blaming the court for obstructing justice. Now many believe the court is trying to impeach you with purely political motivations. Thanks to our contacts in the media, public opinion is quickly shifting in our favor. This will surely put pressure on the court. Rest assured, we will get through this. I won't let them take you down. He looked at his watch again. Looks like Mr. Vice President is late yet another time. He lowered his voice. I'm slightly concerned about Peter. Yeah, Peter is rarely at the damn meetings. He seems to have his mind occupied. He's been late to almost every meeting we've had recently. I noticed it too. I need to talk to him in private sometime. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. It was Peter. He walked inside with files in both hands. Gentlemen, why are you so late? There was a large group of people in front of the court protesting against your impeachment. I couldn't pass them by easily. He placed the files on my table, took out several documents, and organized them in front of me. Here's everything, just as you asked. Our plans for our next reforms. You can use your presidential decrees to enact reforms now. We have enough political capital. I also brought a list of suggested reforms from our party. What are your thoughts, Anton? I have a few ideas myself. I took a look at the documents. Okay, you can select up to 3 laws to enact. So as you see, there's a lot of stuff that you can turn around and do. You can purge the general staff. I don't have a strong enough decree to do that. If you change certain laws, you can actually do that. So I think if you leave the emergency laws in effect, you can do that. But again, you have to leave the emergency laws in effect. Relocation of teachers and doctors in rural areas. I think you would probably need to turn around and have. There's another plan that comes up later on that you could do that. But yeah, the Bergia Special Zone. I don't know how you achieve that, but I'm assuming you could do it if you invest in Bergia. Gun ownership rights. Don't know anything about that. Remove public religious symbols. I'm guessing if you turn around and start moving towards getting rid of creationism in school, there's that. Not sure about capital punishment. Remove independence of the central bank. I'm guessing you can do that if you turn around and if you nationalize everything. You could probably turn around and do that. Okay, so let's see, what can we do? We can allow private prisons. That'll be +1 to our budget. We can do the desolatization. The influence of President Sol is in every facet of society, with his portraits, statues, and name dotting every possible spot. The administration can begin a desolatization process with a decree to remove the cult of personality that has been established around the second president. You can do a Fair Trade and Competition Commission. Trade and commerce in Swordland has few regulatory measures, resulting in an unfair competition at times. A new Fair Trade Commission can establish via decree to push for fair market competition by protecting local industries through regulations. We can do gender equality in education, which I will do because I'm trying to help my wife. Swordland's education system has different classes and curriculum for genders. Through a new decree, we can provide gender equality in the education systems by reverting the heterogeneous studies that were imposed by a traditional education doctrine in the mid-30s. We can do amnesty for all Sol era political prisoners. The political persecutions of the past of the post-Civil War era left thousands of prisoners waiting for their life sentences in prisons like Antal Rock. A presidential pardon decree for all political prisoners would see arbitrarily persecuted activists and thought leaders regain their freedom. Let's see, rural education institutes. Swordland lacks technical and theoretical institutes for rural regions, causing people to migrate to cities for opportunities. A new directive would see the construction of hundreds of education institutes that would teach the rural population in technical and theoretical skills. Let's see. We can allow private prisons. I'm probably going to end up doing this also because I need the money. All prisons in Swordland are run and funded by the Ministry of Interior. A decree could be passed to allow private companies to construct and operate prisons for profit while adhering to the rules and guidelines of the Interior. Swordish Radio and Television Supreme Council. Freedom of speech is protected in Swordland, but with the rise of new media, private organizations gained a massive influence on society. With a new decree, we could create a government agency, the SRSC, that could protect the independence of the media or control it. We could lower the retirement age. The retirement age of Swordland has been increased to 65 in the mid-1940s due to the economic stagnation. The older voting blocks are requesting a decrease. Our administration can pass a decree that would lower the retirement age to 60. Or we could do some free prescription medicine. Prescription medicine in Swordland is partially paid by the Ministry of Health according to the importance of the medication. A new decree would allow all citizens to get their medication completely for free. So, I already said I was going to do gender equality. And I'm also you can choose to not do anything. So you can just choose to do nothing. You can choose 1, you can choose 2, or you can choose 3. So, and I'm gonna also do the private prisons because I want to help my budget. Now, rural education, free prescription medicine, or desolatization. I kind of want to do that because Tarquin Sol has a lot of influence. So maybe if I remove the cult of personality, that'll kind of help me later on down the road. Or it could just start a fight with the soulless that are still in power. So that might cause problems. So let's back away from that plan Either rural education institutes or free prescription medicine. One takes from the budget. They both take from the budget. Damn it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, we seem like we might have a pandemic coming, so I'll go ahead and do free prescription medicine. And we'll decide on these. You are about to use your powers to change the law in Soylent. Are you sure about your decision? Yep. Following a brief discussion, I took notes about my decisions. Privatization of the prison system is going to be very controversial, but the increased number of detainees has been pushing state prisons to their limits. This will surely lift the burden from the government. Interested to see how the oligarchs would react. Looks like either Miss Walda or the First Lady had a huge influence on your other decision. It's about time we went after equal rights for the ladies, if only because all those women marchers are starting to get annoying. This will, however, anger a lot of conservatives. Let us not forget the fact that the biggest bulk of our voters aren't socially liberal. This is a risky move right before the elections. Half the country is women, Lucian. Yes, but how many of them are actively involved with these demands for change? It is a mistake to make generalizations because of a vocal minority. But let's move on. Okay. This is the 20th century and we still don't guarantee some basic rights for our women. This is unacceptable. I understand, sir. It's also great that we'll be giving out free medicine. Our poorer regions definitely suffered from the lack of it. However, this will put a massive burden on our government budget. It will also be very difficult to build infrastructure in order to provide medicine equally and efficiently. Thankfully, this policy could reflect very well on the vote, especially with the rural and poor, if it is executed correctly. Yeah, I agree. Well, we both respect your decisions, Anton. But now that everything's settled, I should get to work. We'll catch up soon. Lucian looked at his watch. We actually have 6 more minutes. But very well, let's call it here. Thank you both. Alright, Peter. I need you to actually be at the damn meetings on time. Jesus. What type of vice president? Alright, Gil Sword. Commercial activity has increased, and I'm guessing it's because of the L1 high-speed railway. And on top of that, it's probably because of all the other trade contracts and stuff that we've worked out. Let's see what we have in the news. Okay. Rain shatters Sorter School tradition. So, yeah, they're probably not too happy with that decision. Medicine is fully free, so they're happy about that. They don't like the private prisons, but they do like the gender equality. Always nice. And they, The Economist, of course, love the idea of private prisons. So, pretty sure Coronati's gonna love that. Circling over Stalwart. Okay. So apparently the Prime Minister of Lesbia couldn't land his plane. Okay. He had been too drunk to get off the plane. Jesus. Alright. MOD reports state-of-the-art military equipment and tanks. Nice. Okay. So we're starting to get some actually good equipment. Some nice tanks and everything. Great. Alright. Trade talks with the president of Lesbia. After a long whistle, Maroon train slowly started to move. This train had been in service for many years. It had 9 locomotives with special quarters and an office. As the name implied, it was painted with bright maroon color. Among the flashes and cheers, we departed from Hell Sword Central Station. Our destination was Perla, the capital of Lesbia. The historic route we were using was also called the Southern Express. We passed through Lesbian mountain range to the lowlands with a short stop at the beautiful Seria Nueva, where Lesbian security forces joined us. Looking outside the window, the difference of wealth between Volgin and Seria Nueva was extraordinary. I heard a knock on the door to my office on the train, and Simon entered. Mr. President? Simon, have a seat. He sat down on a chair in front of my desk. I wanted to have a quick chat about Prime Minister Alvarez and give you a heads up. There's been some rumors about his demeanor in public appearances. Go on. He's known to have met with other state leaders while intoxicated on various occasions. Some even call him an alcoholic. So the man can't handle his drink. He's essentially my vice president. Is that it? That seems to be the case. He handed me a newspaper. The headline was "Circling over Stallport." This happened just yesterday. Apparently he was so drunk that he couldn't get off the plane on a diplomatic visit. After this incident, some say he is unfit to serve, but I don't believe that at all. Why is that? Although his presidency is riddled with these kinds of incidents, I also heard that he is a shrewd man. Now I'm worried. I'm sure we'll be fine, Mr. President. We're almost at Perla. I will return to my cabin now. I'll see you when we arrive. A few minutes later, with a long whistle, our train came to a stop. I waved to the crowd from the window. Lots of reporters that flocked over were pushed away by the lesbian security guards. We made our way to our cars, and the convoy began its short trip to the Yellow House. The Yellow House was situated at the very center of Perla, in the middle of a circular park that was off limits to regular citizens. The park was full of roses on small patches. The convoy came to a stop, and I made my way to the entrance. The assistants directed me to a room to wait for Prime Minister Alvarez. And I'll wait. I started waiting in the exquisite room with golden chandeliers. I waited for around 10 minutes and there was no sign of Prime Minister Alvarez. It was almost time for our meeting. My chair started to feel uncomfortable. I stood up and walked around to look at the various items in the room. A beautiful golden teapot piqued my interest. Now, funny thing about this, if you inspect the teapot, you'll break it. And then Alvarez will want you to pay for it, which comes out of your personal wealth. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. I went back to my chair. The door opened and Patricio Alvarez entered. Although I knew that he was one of the youngest state leaders in the world right now, I was still surprised by how long he looked, or how young he looked. I'm guessing that's what he meant to say. At his young age, he wasn't the leader for not just any state. He was leading one of the strongest countries in the Eastern Marcopa. He was holding his head like he had a headache and he was stumbling. Upon seeing me, he immediately composed himself. We shook hands. He gestured towards the two couches and we sat down face to face. President Rain, welcome to Perla. Good to have you here. I hear a lot about your successes. And I hear a lot about your successes as well, Mr. Alvarez. I tried, Mr. Rain. I smelt the strong odor of alcohol. Have you been drinking? A couple of glasses of the finest lesbian wine is the best way to start any meeting. Would you like some? Since you asked, why not? He gestured to the assistants. 2 glasses. They came back very fast. We took a sip. Nothing like it. Let's begin then. So, you're here for the trade deal. What was it about again? Can you remind me? We want to provide Swordfish coal in return for lesbian capital. Yes, right. Sorry, I've just been very busy lately. You know, being a president makes you pretty busy, so I don't have any issues with this deal. Except there is one problem. He smirked. Waylon. Your decision to join Smolak in his attack against the unfortunate Bluish population compromised a lot of the lesbian assets in the area. Not to mention the humanitarian implications. We had to do our duty and send aid to those who were displaced as a result. This has negatively affected Lesbia. Our economy was indirectly hit due to the destruction of manufacturing sites, in particular the oil refineries. Which unfortunately means that the price has gone up, Mr. Ain. Oh, shit. Makes sense. I knew this was coming. So what is on the new price tag? Good intuition. I want the one thing that anyone can possibly ever want out from Waylon. I want their oil. I'm listening. A lot of oil from Wayland is passing through Swordland, and Swordfish Petroleum owns most of the oil trade in Swordland. Do you see where I'm going with that? Yes, I do. I want you to sell me Swordfish Petroleum, or the deal is off. You really are a shrewd man, Mr. Alvarez. I will take that as a compliment. Very well, I'll accept. Are you going to give me a military deal, though? My favorite phrase in the world. I accept. I'm overjoyed. This is a start to bring our countries closer than ever before. We Eastern Marcopans should stand together. We shook hands. Speaking of standing together, I want to talk to you about something. We, by we I mean Ado, would like to see Swordland in our sphere. What do you think, Mr. Rain? That sounds excellent. How do we begin? Just the answer I wanted to hear. We need to form a defensive pact against the United Quintana in Eastern Marcopa until it's pact against okay, let me try that again. We need to form a defensive pact against United Quintana in Eastern Marcopa until it's too late. Or I guess we shouldn't. They will attack eventually. He clenched his fist and slammed it on the coffee table. Those damn communists. We need to stop them before it's too late. Vogsland, those barbarians are preparing to invade Helgeland on false accusations. If Agnolia is first, Swordland will be next. I'll be frank, Eastern Marcopa's only way to survival is through Ado. And we need to support one of the largest players in the Eastern Marcopa, Swordland. The beautiful country of Swordland is the key to all of this. We need you, Mr. Rain. We need Swordland. Are you with us? Will you defend our continent against the blight of communism? Down with the communists. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect Swordland. Well said. First, Hegel will fall, then Maleniev. I offer you an alliance. Together we shall shield the continent against Maleniev's evil. Not to mention that you will have Arcasia's full backing, the most powerful ally you can have in this era. I accept. Swordland will be allied to Lesbia. Nice. Perfect. Brilliant. You don't know how valuable you are, Mr. Rain. You just saved your country from its demise. I will personally talk to Mr. Walker to let him know of this achievement. We shook hands and he went for a hug. I could smell the alcohol in his breath. He looked at the clock. I'm afraid I have to leave now to attend other matters. Thank you for your visit. He smiled and left the room. Okay, nice. So for the small price of some oil from Wayland, we managed to not only get a trade deal, but we got a military alliance with them as well. So we have a military alliance with Lesbia, Wayland, and we have one with Agnolia. So we are doing pretty damn good right now. The one, I guess we just can't get one with Vogsland. Maybe if we turn around and don't have, if we don't have the situation where we embargo United Quintana, maybe we can work on something. But hey, again, I will take 3 out of 4. That is really damn good. I didn't even think I could pull that off, but it's nice. Now, hopefully, I just have to avoid, getting completely screwed. Of course, Geopolitico is talking about the Swordland Lesbia Pact. Okay. And then we're going to end up joining Ado as well. So far, we're doing pretty good. I can take this. All right, we have a private meeting with Peter Vectern, 147 Warwick Avenue, suburbs of Holsword. It was a dark, chilly evening when Peter called and asked if we could meet. He gave no details. All he said was that it was important. Ah, shit. I drove alone through Holsword's suburbs until I reached the meeting point he named, 147 Warwick Avenue, number 26, our old campaign headquarters, untouched since the night of the election. This was where everything began. I made my way up the dusty staircase of the office building. The light in the second floor hallway was out, so I used the cigarette lighter to find my way to the wooden door marked 26. I pulled on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The heavy door had always been a pain to open. Coming? Peter pushed on the door with all his weight. I made a screeching sound as it opened. Without further ado, I bid you welcome to this grand nostalgia trip, hosted by yours truly, Peter Vectern. He made an exaggerated bow. The dust from the opened door was still settling down. Feeling sentimental yet? Indeed, I haven't been to this place in ages. I miss it sometimes, even that damn door. Come over here. Remember this? He walked over to his old desk and pointed to the gramophone that had annoyed our neighbors and kept us company for so many late nights. Peter flipped the switch, and it filled the room with swing music from the 20s. I'll be damned, it still works. I thought this office was sold off. No, I've been paying the rent. Too many memories attached to this place just to sell it. And we might use it again soon. He put his hand under the desk and brought a bottle out. He took a swig out of it and passed the bottle to me. I'll drink. That's my boy. Peter snapped his finger to the music while going through the items in the room. He looked virtually unchanged since election night. It looked unchanged since election night. Come on, have a look around. See if it doesn't bring back memories. Check your old desk drawers. I walked over to my old desk, sat down on the squeaky chair, and opened the top drawer. Inside, there were a few old coins, pencils, and sheets of paper. Underneath them, something caught my eye. It was a photograph of me and Monica sitting under a tree. K-I-S-S-Y-N-I-N-G? Oh, I'm about to say Y-N-G. Jesus. Okay. This must have been 10, maybe 15 years ago. We looked so young and so happy. Monica would have loved to see this. Well, would love to see this. Nice find. Look at baby Anton. You didn't even have your iconic mustache back then. Take the photograph. I took the photograph and slid it into my jacket pocket. Look through the storage boxes. I walked over to the tower of storage boxes and opened one of them. In one of the storage boxes, I found a heavy object wrapped safely. I unwrapped it. It was an emerald-colored statue of a goat, the symbol of Swordland. I remembered that this was a gift from Brenda, one of the 53 election campaign assistants. It would look good on my desk in the palace. Brenda, always sucking up to you. And where did it get her? Seriously, where? I have no idea where she ended up. Take the statue. I lifted the storage box with the statue in it and put it near the door so I could take it on the way out. Go through the records. I made my way to the gramophone and started flipping through the records next to it. I found one of my favorite albums ever, Mountains by Janet Gers, a set of plaintive folk songs that made me yearn for the countryside whenever I heard it. What a classic. You should mail that to Frank so he can learn what real music is. Take the record. I pulled the record out, put it under my arm, and placed it next to the door. Enough going through old stuff. Let's talk. Yes, all in good time. He gestured to the bottle he had in his hand. No, I'm good. He shrugged, took a very big gulp out of the bottle, and staggered to the side afterwards. I know you, Peter. What are you hiding? Nothing. Let's go up to the roof. The view was amazing. It was always amazing from there. We went up the stairs to the roof. The view was mesmerizing. The buildings of Hosor twinkled below us, while the stars shone bright in the sky. We sat and leaned back against the wall, taking it all in. Right as I was starting to get up, I heard a sobbing sound. I turned to Peter and saw tears streaming down his cheek. What's wrong? He wiped the tears away. I messed up, Anton. I messed up big time. Evelyn's leaving me. She wants a divorce. The hell did you do? I've been sleeping with Livia. Of course, you've been sleeping with more than Livia. Jesus. You've been what? I know, she's your secretary. I'm so sorry. It's just, Evelyn hasn't been the same since she lost her job. And Livia was giving me sultry looks from the day I hired her. Oh yes, blame the woman. Yes. You were away. I was drunk. One thing led to another. But she's more than just a pretty girl, Anton. She's smart and kind. I think we really connected. I like her too. That doesn't mean I'd break my vows and risk a scandal for a bit of horizontal polo. I know, but we're ending things. I told her it's too unprofessional, and I want Evelyn back. Oh boy. Still can't believe this. I'll have both of you fired. Anton, please, I'm begging you. There was an edge of desperation in Peter's voice. He took another drink. How many years have we known each other? How many scrapes have we gotten ourselves out of? I can handle this. Just trust me. I turned to face my friend and vice president. The habits that had gotten him dubbed the bad boy of Sorter's politics when we were young were no longer so charming coming from a middle-aged man. Yet he was still a capable politician, and I couldn't ignore our long history together. I'll be blunt. You will fix this, or I will remove you from office. Yes, Anton, I understand. Thank you so much. Don't mention it. I mean it. Don't mention it. Without waiting for his reaction, I left the rooftop alone and made my way downstairs. On my way out, I grabbed my belongings and took one last look back at the office. It had been home to some happy memories for sure, but this visit had permanently cured me of any nostalgia. As soon as I arrived home, I headed up to my study, sat down, and stared at the telephone. Let me call Lucien. He picked up very quickly. Yes, Mr. President? I told Lucien everything Peter had told me about himself, Evelyn, and Livia. Thank you for calling me, Mr. President. This serves to confirm some suspicions of my own. We have to meet. What, right now? Tomorrow morning in your office, early before either of the two arrive. Don't bring this up with anyone else. I fear we may have more than a mere dalliance on our hands. The line dropped. I stared at the receiver, wondering what this last statement meant. What was going on that I didn't know about? I went to bed, but couldn't sleep at all. Fuck me, Peter. Don't. You've already done enough of that. But, yep, Peter has screwed us, to a certain degree. Okay, Vogsland has sanctions. They put sanctions on us. Cool, we already put an embargo on you, so, again, go fuck yourself. Let's see. Swordland Today, new scholarship program to send thousands to university. They're nice and happy about that. And Vogsland trade sanctions against Swordland. That has already been brought up. Okay, so in the next episode, we have to start the day at the palace, and we also have to have a meeting with Lucien. And it looks like Peter, we're going to have some problems with Peter. I can see that now. So I hope he can deal with the situation, but it ain't looking good. It is not looking good at all, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe we can work things out. But I have a pretty good idea of how this is already going to play out. So, thank you for watching the video. I can't even say stuff right now. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked the video, like the video. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. I have plenty of stuff in my library, and I have plenty of stuff on the way. And I will have the next episode of this out very soon. We're actually getting close to the end. We're actually getting really close to the end. So, thank you for watching. See you in the next one.